नमस्ते दोस्तों। मैं हूं अंकित कनोडिया, स्मार्ट सिंक सर्विसेज से। मुझे मालूम है मार्केट में जिस तरह की वोलेटिलिटी हम लोग देख रहे हैं, और आज से नहीं पिछले 2-3 महीनों से जनरली सारे इन्वेस्टर्स की हालत बहुत खराब है। मैं ऐसा नहीं करूंगा कहूंगा कि हमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो रही है। ऑफ कोर्स नोबडी लाइक्स कि उनके पोर्टफोलियो का वैल्यू गिरे। हमारे और हमारे क्लाइंट्स के पोर्टफोलियो में भी लास्ट 2-3 महीने में काफी गिरावट देखने को मिली है, एंड जो कि एक नॉर्मल चीज है बिकॉज मार्केट ही गिर रहा है। ऐसे समय में एक इंडिविजुअल इन्वेस्टर्स आपके जैसे या मेरे जैसे सबसे बड़ी गलती ये करते हैं कि ग्लोबल न्यूज मैक्रो न्यूज से अपने आप को घेर लेते हैं। हमारा मानना ये है स्मार्ट सिंक सर्विसेज में कि ये सबसे अच्छा समय होता है इंडिविजुअल बिजनेसेस को देखना। आपने नोटिस किया होगा कि पिछले 5-7 वीडियोस में हमारा फोकस सिर्फ और सिर्फ अच्छे बिजनेसेस के बारे में, जिसमें हमने पास्ट में अपने मिशन स्माइल कम्युनिटी में डिस्कस किया था, उसके वीडियोस को हम लार्जर ऑडियंस के लिए यूट्यूब में शेयर कर रहे हैं। और यही नहीं, हमने इस वीक से वीक में एक वीडियो की जगह वीक में 2 वीडियो डालना चालू किया है, एक वेंसडे और एक सैटरडे। राइट, आपने वेंसडे वाला वीडियो अगर नहीं देखा हो तो प्लीज जाके जरूर देखिए, क्योंकि वहां पे भी हमने एक इंटरेस्टिंग कंपनी यूरेका फोर्ब्स के बारे में डिस्कस किया था। आज हम बात करेंगे प्रीमियमाइजेशन थीम के बारे में, और इस थीम के ऊपर डिस्कस करते हुए हम डीप डाइव करेंगे ईथॉस लिमिटेड पे। ये बहुत ही एक अच्छी बिजनेस है, एंड मैं आपको ये जरूर बोलूंगा कि करंट मार्केट में भी इनका अगर आप शेयर प्राइस देखो तो कंपेयर टू बाकी स्टॉक्स ये काफी रेजिलिएंट रहा है। सो इसको देख के हम ये जरूर सोच सकते हैं कि कहीं ना कहीं इस बिजनेस में कुछ बात तो है जो नोटिस करने लायक है। बट दो बात मैं पहले बताऊंगा, जब हम लोग वो वीडियो पे जाए उसके पहले दो बात पे आप फोकस जरूर करें। पहला, जो हमारा सेबी डिस्क्लेमर है, I and my company has no position in the stock. We have not recommended this stock to our customers. Secondly, ये वीडियो जो है 2023 में बना था, तो ऑफ कोर्स लास्ट 1-2 साल में कुछ डेवलपमेंट्स हुए होंगे। तो मैं आपको ये सलाह दूंगा कि आप पहले ये वीडियो देखिए। वीडियो को देख के आपको एक अच्छा अंडरस्टैंडिंग हो जाएगा कि प्रीमियमाइजेशन थीम कितनी स्ट्रांग है, प्लस इथॉस कहाँ प्लेस होता है इस थीम में। उसके बाद मेरे हिसाब से आपका सबसे जरूरत वाला काम ये होगा कि 2024 और 2025 तक में कंपनीज के जो भी रिजल्ट्स आए हैं, कॉन कॉल्स आए हैं, प्रेजेंटेशंस हुए हैं, उनको देखिए और उससे अपने आप को अपडेट कर लीजिए। ओके, आई होप आपको ये 2 घंटे का वीडियो पसंद आए। थैंक यू। A very good morning to all of you who have joined in for this presentation on From Necessities to Aspirations. Just to bring to your notice, today is our 31st Mission Smile webinar. For non-members who have joined in today, what is Mission Smile? Mission Smile is making new stock market investors learn it through engaging research. Today is our 31st webinar. So for the last 31 months, we have been doing this on trot. We never took a break in between. And I'm very happy to let you know that Shivam from our team, who had a very good presentation last month on Tega Industries, is also going to present this month on the luxury and premiumization theme in India. So he'll first talk about a few themes. He will also take names of some of the companies and then deep dive on one of them. So post the presentation, you can also suggest us names of companies where you want us to further deep dive, and we'll probably take some of them in our subsequent webinars also. Okay. So thank you so much everyone for joining in. One last announcement before I leave it to Shivam. From today onwards, this is again for non-members. Today onwards, till the year end, we are running a special discount. So please check out our Twitter channel and you will get to know about it from today evening. So over to you, Shivam. You can probably, I'll just put myself on mute and you can go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ankit bhai. Good morning, everyone. It's good to be back. So as Ankit bhai mentioned, today's theme to say is premiumization and especially the luxury end of the market. So Ankit bhai has already touched upon it. So what we'll do is one part of the presentation will have on the premiumization theme and what is driving that. And the second half will move towards one deep dive on a very interesting company. So without further ado, let's start. So this is in brief about what we'll cover in the first half of the presentation. Where we'll talk about the consumer patterns and the behavior, along with some key sectors that we feel that can play a very important role in this particular theme. And as Ankit bhai said, you can also suggest at the end of the presentation what you feel can also be one of the important levers of growth in this premiumization theme. So moving on, we have seen an evolution in the spending pattern, globally. It's not only in India, but pehle, we were wearing some canvas shoes. Then we moved to Bata gradually. Then as we grew older, we moved to Nike or Reebok, right? Those of us who had played sports. Same way with as the image says, most of it was on notebooks, whiteboard. Now we have iPads with us. So there's a lot of evolution in the spending pattern that we can see all around us, right? Now, let's go back to the history. Everything is in context of history. Premiumization and luxury is not something which is new. It's not something that has just come a few decades back. It has always been there. If anybody can tell which place, which palace is this on the chat box? Anybody can guess where this beautiful palace is? If you can somebody can just write it on the chat box. Yes, Harshit bhai has mentioned it correctly. It's Lakshmi Vilas Palace in Baroda. So if anybody has been here, they can see a lot of beautiful art pieces which have been brought in from various parts of the world, most likely from Italy, France, paintings as well from all the corners of the world. That meant that the luxury was in the hands of the few, right? It was on the hands of the Maharajas at that time. Now, moving on, let's come to the British era of our colonization, where it would be surprised to know that 20% of the Rolls-Royce global sales were coming from India, right? This is a very surprising fact that not many of us know, but doing the research, this is what I came to know, that 20% of Rolls-Royce global sales were coming from India. So from Maharajas, then the British rule, moving on, we had the license round. So who remembers this scene from Guru, right? Abhishek Bachchan has this famous dialogue wherein he says khada ho jaun ya iske liye bhi license chahiye. So a lot of our economy post independence was very much closed, and only a few had an access to the riches, as we can say, in terms of gaining access to the markets. And then we had the liberalization movement in 1991. So this is how we have gone from the history, but one thing which has remained very constant is that it has been in the hands of few. The luxury and the riches has been historically in the hands of few. But right now, what we are seeing post globalization and liberalization, we are seeing some evolution. Earlier, we had the HMT watches that everyone HMT or say Titan watches. Now, we also have an access to Rado or a Rolex. Rupa, dollar were the household names when it comes to undergarments, and we have Jockey. Maruti was the only player a few years back. Now it is dominated by the SUVs or the high-end car market as well as are playing a very huge role in this market. And of course, when it comes to alcohol as well, we are seeing a lot of premiumization there as well. So this has been the evolution that has been like happening all around us, and it is not recent. It has been happening like a couple of decades since. So if you chart the consumer behavior or the consumer preferences, like from like consumer segment wise, we see a very interesting pattern that is developing. A lot of, we talked about evolution, but all that has not only been applicable to the household or anything like that. It is also like got to do a lot to do with the age of the consumers. So when we talk about the baby boomers who were like born in the like just after the Second World War, so there was a lot of need-based products which they preferred to buy. Like obviously at that time there was no online as such, but they were like only necessities were they cared about, right? Then came the Generation X. So slowly and steadily the technology came, and what we see here is like they only used to buy products after doing a lot of thorough research, and they were loyal to that particular brand. They will look for value for money, but that somehow changed with the next generation, which is like the millennials or the Generation Y. Now, what they did was they mainstreamed the use of technology. They looked for anything which was like innovative or disruptive, which was like first in the market. What do you say? The price segments were like taken a backseat when it came to buying. People like they put experience first in their buying pattern. So this is something which changed with the onset of the millennials and the Generation Z. Generation Z is even like more interesting, because here the ideological or the personalization or the statement, the personal statement the consumers made through the purchases. So they were willing to pay high price for high quality, wherein also like we see a lot of movement, right? Like sustainability, green. So all this is like in a way ideological, and that has been seen in the consumer spending patterns late on. So they prefer a brand which is like ethical, sustain, like they try to like sustain independent businesses, small businesses. So these are like the ideological thinking comes into their purchases. Now let's come to India, right? We set the tone, like there's a lot of changing in the consumer preferences that are happening. But like Bharat is like, India is like at a very sweet spot right now. And its consumer patterns aligned with its aspirations, with greater, spending capability. A lot of foreign brands are seeing India as a very important destination currently. And especially when you see what is happening in other emerging economies, India is probably the only shining spot right now. So what some of the researchers or the economists say is that $2,500 per capita GDP is like the threshold beyond which a lot of doors open for the consumer market in any country. And any additional income apart from like $2,500 and above, that goes into purchasing premium or quality goods. It's no longer about meeting the ends. It's not about necessities anymore. It's all about aspirations. Like every dollar after $2,500 per capita GDP. This is a very interesting magic number when it comes to any economy, and that we see in like the growth of China as well, right? 2007 or 2006 to 2007 is where China was, where India is today currently. Like if you look at it, and post 2006 2007, the rise of China has been like phenomenal. It's like a 90-degree rise. It's like a unbelievable increase in consumer spending that we see. You look at this particular graph. At about 2007, China's per capita GDP was $2,700, and from there on, it has increased to about 12,000, 13,000 as for the latest figures which are available, which is in 2022. So a steep increase thereon can be seen, and that has been like very synonymous with the growth in their consumption pattern as well. We'll talk about it in the second half of the presentation as well. But coming back to India, so India, we see India is at a like similar, it is on the cusp of takeoff, as Prime Minister Modi said in a interview a couple of days back, and that can be seen in the numbers. When we talk about a GDP, like a market cap, a services exports, even like recently our manufacturing exports, a lot of it is on the upside. We are particularly at a place wherein our economy is just about to take off, and that will have an impact on how the consumption also happens in the country moving forward. Again, demography is something which is going to play a very important role, and like as everybody knows, we'll probably reap the demographic dividends in the coming times, provided conditions are there for it to foster. As everybody knows, GDP is also about to double by 2031, and will surely become the third largest economy by 2027, probably much before that as well. And India is probably only 1 in 3 economies where they generate $400 billion and above economic output annually. So it is also becoming the world's growth engine. So yeah, currently it is at the juncture of 5th largest economy with $3.75 trillion, and it is only getting started, right? So what we see here is that there is a lot of infrastructure, not only digital, not only like physical, but also digital, that is happening. India Stack probably paved the way for the fast pace of consumption that is happening, with digital payments becoming very easy, and it has changed the way we spend, right? It's only from the click of a button that and that also, like, since who has experienced this, that we lose track of our expenses when it comes to digital payments. We are not as conscious as we were about spending than we were like 10, 15 years back. So this is something that all of us have witnessed in our consumption as well, that with UPI, consumption patterns, the way we spend has completely changed. And also, like, if you look at the credit card as well, like, we are still very much under leveraged when it comes as compared to the other countries of the world. So with a lot of formalization in the economy, with a lot of credit growth happening in the country, we can also see that translate into a growth of consumption moving forward. So a lot of things are in place which will drive how India as an economy grow on the back of a very robust digital economy, as well as with the recent spending on infrastructure that will also trickle down. Like it is like a way in which it will trickle down again into increase of the domestic consumption. So demographic dividend, as we spoke earlier, India is expected to add 22% of the working age population by 2031. So more and more people getting into the formal economy, like with them working, they'll start to earn. Once they start to earn, they'll spend on their needs, their aspirations. So you see, it's like a very robust cycle which will like tick off in the years to come, which will again lead to the consumption in India. So a lot of countries are looking at this particular thing and coming in. And of course, the increasing urbanization will also play a key role in how we spend, right? So as you can see, currently it is about 33%, and by 25 it will touch to 37%, and by 2050, 50% of our population will be urbanized. So the scope is huge in front of us, and always, like, we should look at how the rising spending capacity is translating on the ground. We can see through these particular numbers, like how obviously we cannot see it in isolation, but like looking at it as a very overall pattern that we see here is that a lot of lot of the population is now preferring to travel via air as well. That we can see in the numbers, which are like probably highest like in the history of the domestic air traffic. Now, one more thing that we'll need to think of and take note of is now most of the spending or the most of the consumerism, global consumerism, will come from the emerging markets. With their, the growth is going to come from this market. And even in the emerging markets, we see that 57% of the new consumers will be from either China or from India. So the population, the demography, the rising economy, everything will be translating into the rise in global consumer sales. So global brands have no option but to enter these markets and reap the benefits of how the consumer spending changes in these particular countries. China has already seen that, and we'll see this coming in India as well. So one thing that we'll have to remember is that when it comes to luxury and premiumization, it is directly correlated with the rise in HNIs in any country. Now, we look forward, but the numbers say that by 2037, the HNIs will probably be 5 times of what the number is today. Now, we see that these guys have the spending capacity, but if you look at the consumption patterns, like what do they spend on? What do the ultra rich spend on? So we see that 4%, obviously it goes into commercial property equities, but 4% of Indian ultra HNIs wealth is expected to be pursued in passion projects or the passion investments. Now, what are passion investments? So passion investments can be like art, cars. We see a lot of people being collectors of cars, wine, and as well as jewelry. So, but even like in this 4%, what we see is that 53% of Indians, they would prefer to spend on watches, luxury handbags, and watches, and art, sorry, as part of the passion purchases. This is as per the survey taken by a global real estate consultant in 2022. The numbers might be old, but this is the general pattern that we see in the spending of ultra HNIs. So this can give us some idea from where the growth will come if there are any listed companies which cater to these particular market. Now, as I mentioned earlier, with the demography changing, like rising income, the pyramid is inverting. So by 2031, we see that 46% of the household income will be about $10,000 to $35,000, as compared to 24% in this particular bracket in 2021. So in 10 years, we are seeing a major shift, almost like doubling of the top second income bracket from the top, and above 35,000 will also become 3 times, right? So we see a lot of spending on luxury coming in the next decade or so, and this will lead to increase in the large domestic consumption base and the rapid growth in consumer culture. So $1.7 trillion will be added to the economy by 2030 from this particular base. And the pie is only going to get bigger. The Indian luxury market currently is $8.5 billion as compared to $2.5 billion in 2021. So already it has like almost become 3 times, right? And according to a study by Bain & Co, what they are projecting is by 2030, this market will become $80 to $90 billion. So almost 10 times expansion of the pie can be seen in the next decade. Now, we see that the market is huge, right? But what is going to drive the growth in this particular sector? What will drive the consumers to go out and actually buy the luxury goods. So does anybody remember this guy? Anyone like has an idea? Right. So everybody knows that like he was all over the internet. He was all over Twitter, in the news. He stood in line for like 17 hours just to get the first iPhone. So this should tell you about the mentality of the upper echelon of the pyramid when it comes to spending on luxury items, on items that they're very passionate about, on items where they want to give out a statement, give out a status signaling to the friends, the family, or the close one. So this is something that will continue to drive the luxury part of the segment. And this stems from the need for uniqueness. So individuals will want to feel or made to look different from the group. That has been always been like human psychology. And this comes through the brand legacy, from the exclusivity or scarcity of a product. And again, there is another part wherein like they want to signal that they are part of a very in-group of wealthy luxury connoisseurs. However, there's lately we are seeing a trend of silent luxury as well, or the quiet luxury, wherein like people will buy luxury items, which is like visibly expensive, but it is not something that is very flashy, right? So that is also like one trend which is like picking up. And as I mentioned, that this all ultimately encapsulates into the building of the self narrative, like making a statement, making a personal statement by the things that you wear, by the things that you purchase, by the things that you possess. So everything ultimately drives down to this: a human need to feel different, human need to make a statement, an ideological statement, increasingly ideological statement, as this particular generation like does. So a lot of things ultimately comes to the self, like the ego that we say, and that comes and that makes me like talk about this very interesting phenomena called the Veblen goods. Now, our basic understanding of economy says that as and when demand like increases, right, the price should also increase. And but this particular phenomena kind of like entirely negates what is the conventional economic theory. So Veblen goods basically are the luxury good wherein the demand, what do you say, to increase the demand, the prices are increased. There is a very interesting example of Chanel, wherein they, in order to just sustain or just to keep the demand steady, they had to increase the price by 60%. So to fuel the demand, they are increasing the price. So this can only be seen in luxury goods, which can be very aptly described by this particular excerpt from Forbes, when they say that the economic theory does not integrate luxury pricing easily. After all, luxury consumers' behavior challenges the tenets of classic economics, whereby higher prices should induce lower demand. So ultimately, what you do is that luxury brands have increased, the prices not because they believe or they could do it, but they also did it to keep the demand strong, and that brings us to the conclusion that luxury space, if the brands, if the companies get it right, there's a huge scope for their growth moving forward. And of course, from this particular, from this economic theory of Veblen goods, we can also say that it is insulated from any inflationary rise. So luxury and the premiumization theme, the basic tenet of this should be that it is like insulated from any inflationary rise in prices, as well as the consumer behavior that we see, which is rapidly evolving with time. So moving on, this is the last segment of the first half, wherein let us discuss some of the key sectors and the players which might play a very important role in this premiumization theme. So obviously real estate is one, right? Recently there was this headline wherein we saw that DLF sold like about 1,200 flats for over 8,000 crores within 3 days in Gurgaon. The high-end home demand is surging, and that is why the first segment that we come down to is the high-end homes. I've added the logos of the companies which can play a role in this particular segment. Now, there's apart from the high-end homes, now one more ancillary to that is with increase in technology, the Internet of Things and everything, we see a lot of smart home appliances coming up. So that particular sector is also something one can like look at, wherein like Havells, Crompton Greaves, Handwear are key players. Moving on, of course, it's the jewelry aspect of it. Titans and Co, Kalyan Jewelers are the key players. Now, moving on, in this particular sector, what I feel is the company which has better designers, and then inherently, with better designers comes better designs. So these companies which possesses these traits will outperform the ones which are not able to like follow that. So if you want to like play this theme, I mean, I believe that this should be like kept in mind while investing in any particular company from this sector moving forward. And of course, then there's the luxury fashion, red tape, brand concepts, Khadins. Khadins recently is coming up with a demerger wherein like it is demerging its premium retail division from the distribution one. So these are like few of them. There are more, but I've just like listed a few here. Of course, then there's Landmark Cars. And again, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, that the generation today keeps experiences like first when it comes to the consumer preferences rather than the price. So any company which can provide experiences will tend to benefit from the consumer behavior that we are seeing today. And Club Mahindra is like one of these which provides in a way among the listed space. If anybody has an idea, if there is another one in this particular theme, they can just like put it on the chat box. And lastly, I'm sorry, like there's this premium alcohol as well. Piccadilly Agro is the company which manufactures Indri, the whiskey brand, which was recently awarded the best global single malt whiskey in the world. And the share price is also like done pretty well in the last 3-4 months. It has corrected from its height, but that particular news brought the attention to this company. And of course, there's United Spirits, Radico, Sula. So yeah, this was what also like I touched upon earlier, that it is the demand for the products is directly proportional to the HNIs in the country. And of course, the final is the luxury watches, the ultra luxury segment. I think the only listed space which probably provides ultra luxury products, and that too like watches, which has a store in value, I believe, is Ethos and its parent company KDDL Limited as well. And interestingly, this is the company, Ethos is the company on which we'll be deep diving today. So this is the end of the first half of the presentation, wherein I've just laid down the like macro environment for you. So if anybody has any questions till now, or if anybody wants to suggest which companies can like play a role in this particular theme, can like just put it down in the chat box. I will take a 5-minute break, Ankit bhai, if that's fine, and like I'll answer any questions, and then we'll move on to the deep dive on Ethos, if that's fine.
Yeah, sure, Shivam. So I don't see any hands being raised. If anybody has any question, you can raise your hand. Or you can put it on the chat box. So yeah, so I think Vinod ji said financial services. So Shivam,
Yeah.
you want to
that
share
is like
something?
that is a very apt response. I think more and more people will come uh, into investing. More and more demat accounts can be seen getting opened, and brokerages uh, will tend to benefit from this more than not. So yeah, that is very true.
Okay, now I'll go to the, I think there are 3 or 2 hands being raised. So I'll ask Meet Bhai to start first. So Meet Bhai, I've unmuted you. You can go ahead and ask your question first.
Hello, Git bhai. Amazing presentation as always. My only question is, how do you define luxury? Matlab, you guys have given the example of Khadim, right? So these are not the luxury brands.
Yeah,
These are the gap filling brands. ठीक है?
correct.
तो एक गैप है जो 800 से 2000 की रेंज में जूता बेचना, स्पोर्ट्स शूज, ठीक है? तो वो किसी ने क्रैक नहीं किया था. इवन रिलैक्सो, इवन बाटा आज भी स्ट्रगल कर रहा है. ठीक है, तो वो कैंपस ने, खादिम ने क्रैक कर दिया है. अगर आप नॉर्थ में भी जाओ ना, कैंपस हैंड्स डाउन लीडर है. ठीक है, तो सी आई एम नॉट टॉकिंग अबाउट एनी स्टॉक रिकमेंडेशन. उन्होंने आईपीओ में क्या किया, कौन से पी फंड ने बेच दिया, दैट इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट स्टोरी. बट आई एम जस्ट सेइंग कि वो बिजनेस कैसे ग्रो कर रहा है. ठीक है, सो दो ही क्लास होते हैं अकॉर्डिंग टू मी. एक होता है मास कंजम्पशन और एक होता है प्रीमियम कंजम्पशन, एकदम प्रीमियम ब्रांड्स. लाइक यू सी की एलवीएमएच का ब्रांड एम्बेसडर इज दीपिका पादुकोण. तो इट इज अ ग्लोबल स्टेटमेंट दैट इंडिया इज अराइजिंग. ठीक है, मतलब हम आ चुके हैं. बट द थिंग इज कि हमारे पास ये प्ले करने के लिए बहुत सारे कंपनीज नहीं है. दिस इज व्हाट आई थिंक. सी इथोस आपने बोला, अभी अंबानी ने एक 18 करोड़ का गाड़ी खरीदा. ठीक है, 25% हैंड्स डाउन उसका मार्जिन है. एक स्टोर का पूरे साल का खर्चा निकल गया पथिक फिलिप का इथोस से. राइट, सो आई थिंक दिस इज प्रीमियम, दिस इज प्रीमियमाइजेशन इसको बोलते हैं. या तो फिर आप मास आते हैं. बाकी आप पूरे वर्ल्ड में मुझे कोई भी ऐसी 5 ब्रांड्स बता दो, जैसा आप खादिम का बोल रहे हो, कि जिसने ये मिड प्रीमियम मिड सेगमेंट क्रैक किया और उसने सस्टेन किया हो. वो इक्का दुक्का कभी आउटलायर बन जाएगा, लेकिन वो सस्टेन नहीं कर पाएगा. जैसे पूमा ने क्रैक किया था लेकिन सस्टेन नहीं कर पाया. स्केचर्स ने क्रैक किया बट सस्टेन नहीं कर पा रहा है. क्रॉक्स इंडिया में आके ट्राई कर रहा है लेकिन सस्टेन करेगा नहीं करेगा, दैट टाइम विल टेल. राइट, तो माय ओनली क्वेश्चन इज कि आप प्रीमियमाइजेशन बोल रहे तो हाउ मेनी अपॉर्चुनिटीज डू वी हैव इन दिस कैटेगरी, जिसको हम एक्चुअल में बोल सकते हैं कि दीज आर प्रीमियमाइजेशन ट्रेंड्स, और जिसको हम फॉलो कर सकते हैं अपार्ट फ्रॉम इथोस एंड केडीडीएल ऑफ कोर्स.
Yeah, Meet, so on Khadim, I mean, we have not categorized like explicitly as luxury, but something of a premiumization shift. So premiumization need not be like ultra luxury or luxury wala thing, जो हमारा perception देता है. This is just like from a particular जो company का target
वैल्यू
segment
माइग्रेशन.
है. हाँ, so वो value migration उनका उस तरीके से हो रहा है. So in that sense, we had kept like Khadim उसमें. But yeah, you were right. Ki if I'm talking about like premiumization, that is what the crux of this like the deep dive on ethos is. Ki the thing that we now have, क्योंकि ये जो premiumization है, that has been like happening from like a long back. ये ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी हो रहा है. Like footwear में देखें आप, कपड़ों में देखें, it has been happening. But जो ultra luxury वाला जो segment है, and वो watch में like they are very clearly defined. I'll like talk about this in the ethos वाला presentation, wherein the very well defined की luxury segment कौन से price segment में है, ultra luxury कौन से price segment में है, premium brands को क्या बोलते हैं, कौन से price range में आता है. So they're very elaborately defined in the RHP ethos ने. So based on that only we have like put emphasis कि भाई अगर if you want to play the theme right now, so what we are saying is कि ultra luxury जो है, that will be a huge market as compared to what a footwear like
Agree.
Khadim और जो है. You very rightly mentioned कि जो value migration है वो footwear में, but that was just to showcase कि कहाँ से कहाँ वो हो रहा है Khadim वाला पर.
Agree. नहीं, माय ओनली पॉइंट इज, आप कोई भी अगर इंटरनेशनल ब्रांड्स भी देखो ना, तो देयर आर ओनली वेरी फ्यू ब्रांड्स जिसने ये मिड प्रीमियम मार्केट क्रैक किया है, और सस्टेन तो आई गेस एक भी नहीं कर पाया है. ओवर द पीरियड ऑफ 10 to 15 years, कोई भी स्ट्रेच में आप देख लो, 7 साल के पीरियड देख के कोई भी ब्रांड सस्टेन नहीं कर पाया मिड प्रीमियम में. आई टोल्ड यू ना, स्केचर्स ने भी ट्राई किया है, लेकिन अभी देखो स्केचर्स का सेल. पूमा देख लो आप, दे हैव एंटर्ड दिस मार्केट, बट वो सस्टेन नहीं कर पाते. 5 साल बहुत अच्छा आपको ग्रोथ दे देगा, बट फिर से उसका डाउनफॉल स्टार्ट हो जाएगा. तो उसको स्केलेबिलिटी लाना और सस्टेन करना, इट्स वेरी टफ. दिस इज व्हाट डेटा सजेस्ट, राइट. अब आप नाइकी देख लो, नाइकी 15 साल से हैंड्स डाउन लीडर है. एडिडास देख लो, चाइना का सेल्स देखो एडिडास का. एडिडास इंटरनेशनल में 50%, $8 billion सेल्स कम्स फ्रॉम चाइना, और दूसरा रेस्ट ऑफ द वर्ल्ड. तो हैंड्स डाउन दे आर द लीडर्स. मतलब उनका एवरेज टिकट साइज भी आप देखो तो यार 50-50 हजार का भी जूता, मतलब यार लोग ऐसे ही ले जाते हैं. और उसका भी एक अलग स्टॉक मार्केट चलता है जूते का भी. मतलब पीपल सेल, मतलब आप बॉम्बे में जाओगे तो मतलब यंगस्टर्स ये 50,000 के जूते ऐसे ही ले लेते हैं और उसको सेकंड मार्केट में बेच देते हैं, और उसके रेट्स भी आते हैं यार.
Absolutely.
दैट इज समथिंग कॉल्ड लग्जरी, कि भाई हमें एक वाओ, भाई ये बंदा आ रहा है तो इसका फेस वैल्यू है, ब्रांड वैल्यू है. तो दैट इज समथिंग कॉल्ड लग्जरी. बाकी अभी यार आज 4-5 हजार का भी कोई टी शर्ट पहन के चला जाएगा टॉमी का, तो आपको नहीं पता है ना कि भाई उसने रोड से लिया है, मॉल से लिया है. तो दैट इज नॉट लग्जरी, दैट इज जस्ट शिफ्ट हैपनिंग.
Correct.
That is my point.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mitbhai.
Thank you, Midbhai. Good question. And so I just wrote it on the chat box, and I'll again reiterate this fact that, of course, there are a few, as Midbhai rightly said, there are a very few luxury brands, but our focus is not only on the luxury, but also the value migration process through the premiumization theme. As more and more discretionary spending increases, and as more and more millionaires get born in the country, or born in the sense they migrate to become a millionaire, you will have more demand for premiumized products and services. So like, for example, I think he mentioned about, Shivam mentioned about Club Mahindra. I don't think it's a luxury product at all. It is again a premium product. So premiumization is a big theme. And in the theme of premiumization, there is a very small but growing theme, which is luxury. That is the whole point. Right, Shivam? Or you want to add something?
No, absolutely.
Okay, I think there is no more questions on the chat box. Yeah, Shivam, you can go ahead if you want.
Yeah.
I don't see any hands being raised also. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Is it visible, Ankit bhai? The second presentation?
Yes. Perfectly visible. Go ahead.
Yeah. So this brings us to the second half of the presentation. And this is a company which is like primarily into, like, as we spoke about, just luxury and ultra luxury. I think it is the single largest luxury retailer in India currently, which is operating in the watch space. Right. So this is the basic information about what the company currently like trades at. Disclosure. I think we as SmartSync Services do not hold this company in a portfolio, but I personally do. So just a disclaimer here. So this is something that we usually think of, like whenever we decide a company. This is something that the question that we ask is like how it has come on our radar. So before moving on, I would just like to ask. See, I'll talk about myself personally. So whenever, like, the first time I started earning, there was like a phase wherein I was like constantly into looking at watches. Which watch? So there are a lot of watch forums, forums like What You Seek and all. There are also like this Instagram and Pinterest. You see a lot of profiles wherein people sell or people market or like they talk about watches. And as men, I think this is something that holds very dear to us. Like having a watch, like, I mean, it can be different for different people, but like for me, it was like a sort of like I wanted to be a watch collector when I started off. So I mean, like that was about me. If anybody can also relate and tell if they also had a similar, experience or a similar wish of becoming or collecting watches, they can just like mention yes, or like just mention like which part of the four, you know, uh, customer you belong to. You can just like probably mention it, so we can also get to know. It's not only me who felt that, but there are many more people like me as well. Anyone? Okay. Yeah. So I mean, obviously there is a phase. Along like एक phase आता है कि जहाँ पे like we look at watches. So if you look at the watch market, these are the four basic buckets in which you can put a person in. Like someone who just like likes watches, they would purchase it, but it's not something that they want to, not as a hobbyist or a collector. They'll just like get a watch, and it's probably less frequent. The frequency is less of purchasing the watch. Then there is fashionable professionals, like people who are confident in themselves. They would like to showcase the design or like the craftsmanship of the watch. So they would probably like keep purchasing the watch, like, but not high frequency, probably once in 2 years. And then there are hobbyists and collectors. So these are the people who like have a very high purchase frequency, and they only seek super luxury watches. And if you look at the collector or the investors, so they purchase it and then sell it into the pre-owned market, second-hand market. And watches are something which holds value even after you pay the bill. वरना बाकी सारे आप देखेंगे products, so like they lose value the moment you come out of the showroom, whether it be cars or anything. Watches are something which are considered as especially luxury, high-end watches are considered to be products which hold like value. Right? They have a storage of value. And interestingly, this collector or the investor group of people, they represent 44% of the luxury watch market buyers. And by value, they account for 58% share. So just like one segment is contributing to the majority of watch sales in the world, which is like this particular. So this is something that we may not like understand fully, being watch enthusiasts, if like we are not aware about this particular market, about the watch, because ये बहुत ही क्या बोलते हैं niche product है, और लोगों का इसमें इंटरेस्ट बहुत डीप तक जाता है, जो हमको ज्यादातर like people like us who do not have that much inclination towards watches may not understand. But है ऐसे लोग जो पूरा उसके अंदर ही इतना डीप चला जाता है, like this is all they like live and breathe, collector investors जो हैं. So this is a very important thing that we look at while talking about this company. So we feel that this is a very important factor to consider. And ये चीज अभी youngsters में बहुत जल्दी आ रही है with social media, with digital marketing, with like this information and the images like being bombarded on Instagram, Pinterest, Reddit. You look at the forums, there are like millions and millions of the forum that I was talking about, what you see. If you can just visit that forum and see the visitors on each of the posts, like it runs into hundreds of millions, right? So just this is for a watch. So, and they're like, similarly, there are like subreddits on Reddit. You open any Instagram page, you look at the Patek Philippe Instagram page, a lot of interest is being shown in the luxury high-end market. So this is something that prompted us to look at this company very closely. And if I had to just put it in one picture, like how, we would say ki, yes, a company interesting hai, deep dive into this. This is like basically these three sections. Like first thing that we look at is a like long-term theme. If it is a mega trend, I would say yes. Premiumization and especially luxury, in that, as Ankit said, premiumization is long-term theme, and within that, the luxury thing, which is like just being started, it has a very huge runway in front of it. So that checks the box. There's a lot of shift being, so see, अभी क्या होता है कि watch आप पहले खरीदने जाते थे ना, so आपको एक दुकान मिलेगी, like at least I'll talk about like tier 2, tier 3 cities. Then like there would be a shop, अभी आप वहाँ पे 25 लाख 30 लाख की घड़ी लेने जाएंगे, सो पहले क्या होता था कि अनऑर्गेनाइज सेक्टर है, सो यू वुड नो कि भाई ये सेकंड हैंड मार्केट की बात कर रहा हूँ, यू नो कि भाई ये लाइक लेजिट है या नहीं है, राइट? बट अ लॉट ऑफ शिफ्ट इज हैपनिंग फ्रॉम अनऑर्गेनाइज टू ऑर्गेनाइज, इवन लाइक विद इंटरनेट. सो एंड लोगों में अभी अवेयरनेस भी बढ़ गया, सो दे वुड आस्क कि भाई इफ आई एम बाइंग अ वॉच like which is like running in lakhs, I would want a proof ki bhai whether this is legit or not. So a lot of organizational shift is happening, like from unorganized to organized, and that also like delivers better retail experience, right? So wo abhi ke generation mein that is something also like being looked at, ek experience chahiye while buying as well. So a lot of shift is happening in the market. So that is like one thing that we are looking at. Ki and the second one is कि growing number of HNIs that we discussed, कि disposable income लोगों के पास बहुत ज़्यादा बढ़ रही है. Ultra rich, जिनका net worth is like greater than 8.5 crore, they will become 2x by 2027, right? So अभी अगर हम देखेंगे तो like ये number कुछ 8 lakh है, but by 2027 this will become 16.5 lakh. This is a very interesting data point to look at. Like just in 4 years, we might be seeing like doubling of the entire ultra luxury theme. And so अभी मैंने बताया था कि like luxury watches do hold value, like उनका resale value रहता है, and especially अभी क्या होता है कि watch एक ऐसा प्रोडक्ट है, especially luxury brand अगर आप देखेंगे, so it is not being manufactured on an assembly line, right? कि आप एक डिजाइन आपने किया and फट 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 1000-2000 वॉचेस एक साथ आ जाती है. So it's like very handcrafted thing, and ये कंपनीज जानबूझ के भी थोड़ा अपने जो प्रोडक्ट्स है वो कम बनाती है. लाइक एक अगर वो प्रोडक्ट निकालेगी एक डिजाइन, तो इट वोंट बी लाइक मोर देन 10-15. तो और कोई ना कोई ब्रांड तो पूरे साल में ही सिर्फ 80-100 वॉचेस मैन्युफैक्चर करती है. देयर इज लॉट ऑफ डिमांड सप्लाई गैप यहाँ पे. सो दैट इज ऑल्सो लाइक वन थिंग दैट वी आर लुकिंग एट, कि यहाँ पे, और जैसे भी हमने वेबलिन कुछ का आपको समझाया कि यहाँ पे सिर्फ लाइक डिमांड को बनाने के लिए भी brands are increasing price. So this is one thing, and of course consumer changing preference and behavior. So ये भी एक long term हम लोग थीम में देख सकते हैं कि every dollar like on top of $2,500 is going to go into luxury or premium products. और India is at the cusp जहाँ पे ये $2,500 is going to go up in the time to come. So yes, so अगर मैं luxury watch market में देखूँ, so we see that there is a huge tailwind behind this particular market. And then what we at SmartSync very much focus on key mental model. Like if I have to like a complicated business को या complicated business idea को या investment idea को मेरे को अगर like complex तरीके से नहीं समझा के थोड़ा simplify करना है, so we'll apply mental models. And the first two I think we have already covered in the first part of the presentation, wherein like how the psychological and the consumer behavior, जहाँ पे exclusivity है, scarcity है, quality of products and the experience as well is like taking the front role when it comes to consumer preferences rather than the price, and which is like going to continue with the new generation coming in, new number of workers coming in. So ये आपको consumer behavior में shift बहुत जल्दी देखने को मिलेगा आने वाले टाइम में. So like this is one mental model we've already discussed. The second is the Veblen goods, which like does not follow the law of economics here. So that is also like the second one. And the third one that like I feel कि ethos के लिए apply करता है यहाँ पे is like the counter positioning. So अगर हम लोग यहाँ पे luxury का देखें, so at first it was only like हमारे मन में Titan आता है, right? Like luxury watches अगर हम लोग देखें, so with Titan, and it also acquired Helios, which is like another watch retailer. Then again there is Timex. So if we look at the organized space here, we see कि like luxury, if we think about, so ये दो brand हमारे उसमें आता है. I mean they're obviously like family owned like होते हैं, but like they're very geographically concentrated. But अगर pan India की बात करूँ, so these are the two major players. But if you look at the price points in which Titan and Timex operate in, so that is like still sub 4 lakh. The maximum they sell probably is like 4 lakh, according to the like one of the tables that I'll talk about later on. So luxury market tha, but luxury retail market. But what Ethos has come in and done is कि इसने लाइक ये लग्जरी थिंग को एक स्टेप 2-3 स्टेप आगे लेके गए. तो इट लाइक यहाँ पे आपको करोड़ रुपए की भी घड़ी मिलेगी, 4 लाख रुपए की भी मिलेगी, 25 की भी मिलेगी. So like addressing to a lot of price points, but majority of it is on the top end. And also like speak about it later on कि how this वहाँ पे भी एक shift आ रहा है कि ये लोग lower price point से निकल ही रहे हैं. They don't want to operate in like premium or luxury क्या बोलते हैं fashion brands. So that is like one shift happening. So what this counter positioning says is कि a new entrant must present a compelling standalone value proposition which surpassing the incumbent. So this we discussed, right? कि Titan or Timex थे, but Ethos has like given a new dimension to it, new dimension to luxury, prompting the incumbent to willingly abstain from competition due to potential collateral damage to its established businesses and not technological incapacity. So obviously Titan and Timex do have the capacity, but and Titan might probably get into it. Still, I mean, we are not sure, but at the moment, what we see is that Ethos has been operating since 2003. Its first store came out in 2003. 2012, mein, like the name changed and they like hyped off the business. So it has been years, but we don't see itne price point mein like a competition from these players. Obviously, geographical location mein, there are other retail outlets who provide such high-end luxury markets. Ethos is not the only one, but I think pan-India presence. So in this particular Montreal model, I feel that Ethos ka story applies. So this is one. So premiumization long-term theme, mental models being applied, and then we'll deep dive into the financials of it. The screener kya bolta hai, right? Like this is like the go-to thing for us. So what we are, so it is Ethos is like relatively new entrant of the stock market. I think 2020, May 2022, June 2022, May got listed. But it is like India's largest luxury and premium post retail player. I think probably the only listed one in this particular space. This is also like exploring the adjacencies that are present in the luxury market. I'll cover it later, but it's a high-end luxury pay it operates, which can be seen from unka screener ka about us wala section. And then coming to the numbers, inka top line growth बहुत aggressively grow हो रहा है. Management ने भी guidance दी है कि like it will continue to grow about 2025. तो ये वो लोग बोलते आ रहे हैं last year से, but they've been over delivering. You know, so last 2 quarter के आप numbers देखेंगे तो they are growing 30% and above. They're also focusing on like they वो aggressively expand भी कर रहे हैं, but at the same time they are focusing कि जल्दी से जल्दी उनका operating leverage भी kick in हो, because the business is such कि यहाँ पे आपका एक टाइम के बाद gross margin expand नहीं होगा, since it is like mostly import driven. So the play here is that they do not have a very attractive ROE and ROCE right now, but the trajectory is increasing, and that is what is interesting to us. We want to play that, like playing that thing is much more important than just like जहाँ पे आपका ROE ROCE like is improving is much better as compared to like just investing, क्योंकि आपका value creation यहाँ पे ज़्यादा होगा, wealth creation ये वाले businesses में. And CPO, like which is like the certified pre-owned for the second-hand business. So watch में organized sector में I think Ethos is the probably only player right now which is like reaping the benefits of first mover advantage. This we'll discuss later on as well, but this is a very huge growth lever for the business. और ये बहुत ही exponentially growth होगा for the second-hand watch market in India. And Ethos is also like aggressively onboarding more and more brands. उनका growth का भी बहुत ज़्यादा है, so they recently raised funds और IPO भी अभी आया है, so we'll also like talk about it कि like what's happening there. So मोटा मोटी अगर हम लोग देखेंगे कि ये 3 criterias पे we feel कि ये company बहुत interesting है according to us, and which prompts us to like dive deep, look into what the business is, कि इसका landscape क्या है, competition क्या है, and that is how like we go about researching the companies here. And जैसे हम लोग देखा कि screener पे I think 2021 this coming out of COVID, so we see a dip. But apart from that, the growth since listing is like phenomenal. Our sales growth is like 49.3% in 2022, of course, from the low base. But March 23 as well as like they're growing 36-37%, and last 2 quarters के भी आप अगर number उठा लें, they are growing 30% up rates. Gross margin are continuously improving. So is there any chance कि 30-31% के ऊपर, it is a retail business, right? So we need to explore कि इससे ज़्यादा भी बढ़ सकते हैं नहीं. Coming down to the operating margin, that is also like improving, and with जैसे इनका बहुत ज़्यादा aggressive growth है, so ये इतना जल्दी भी नहीं आएगा, but management is confident that they will be able to improve the margins significantly moving forward. So that also like we'll see later on what the management talks about the gross margin, the operating margin, like, and gross margin is also like dependent on the value chain in which Ethos is belonging to, right? So that also like we'll talk about in the future. So the idea right now is like to see what all questions that come up while just going through like glancing through the screener and putting out the curiosities at one place and addressing them later on in the presentation. So that's the idea behind this particular exercise. Moving on to the balance sheet, what we are currently seeing is obviously 23 mein bata raha hai, people like they raise funds through IPO, but then borrowings mein we are seeing a huge like growth. So they inherently had debt on their balance sheets, but like it is growing very fast. So ऊपर से अभी ये लोग fund भी recently उन्होंने raise किया, as I mentioned. So what is happening? So is there a very aggressive what do you say, growth plan being driven by the managers, by the promoters? That also will explore what is the reason behind them raising funds back to back itna jaldi se. So earlier it was like 125 and 125 that they did 175 QIP mein. So that is also like remains to be like very interesting thing that came on the radar. Moving on, balance sheet pe we see ki fixed assets are increasing. Of course, like with expansion, this will come. But an interesting thing that popped here is the intangible assets. So it's a retail brand, right? So how is there a 40 crore jump in its fixed assets? So that also like piqued our curiosities here. What's cooking? And obviously, like inventories bhi agar aap dekhenge, so it is very high, about like 40% jitna to it goes into inventory. So it is obviously a very high capital intensive business. So is that a red flag? So these are the questions that we had while just glancing through screener. And there is like no cash flow generation. So poor cash flow management. So what is happening? Ki, management is not able to, generate cash flow, free cash flow. So this is also like we'll explore moving forward. And the last part that we see, just like we mentioned, like it has been a journey of rising ROC and returns on invested capital. So this is something that is like a plus point for us, wherein like we are participating in a journey which is where the return ratios are improving, right? So this is motamoti from the glance that we had through screener. So uske basis pe jo questions aate hain, abhi tak to discuss kiya. So this is what we'll cover in the latter half of the presentation. The luxury market ka landscape kya hai? How does the retail business, especially when it comes to watches, of uska distribution channel kis tarike ka rehta hai? So that we'll discuss. Ethos ke bare mein, and like in which part of the value chain it belongs to, we'll discuss that. Mental models, obviously we discuss thoda upar se. Promoters ke bare mein baat karenge. Again, like the questions that we like found from looking at the balance sheet, P&L, and cash flow statements is key. Have the margins peaked? Will the sales growth sustain? Operating margin ka kya scene hai? And what was the reason behind like what do you say, rise in intangible asset on the balance sheet? Fundraising kyun kiya like just after an recent IPO? And about the pre-owned CPU, like the second-hand market, watch market. So this is something that we'll discuss in detail as well. And of course, last night we'll talk about the competition, valuations, and the red flag risks. Yeah. So next part will be jo bhi humne questions wahan pe raise kiye. So all of these will be addressed in these 5 sections. So moving ahead, the Indian luxury watch market. The time has come. So by 2028, the premium and the luxury watch market is expected to grow at 9.6%, right? From 2022 to 2028. Now, as I mentioned earlier, what is happening right now is the youth is going to dominate this market. So this is like an old study here, but the more and more I read, like on the internet, what I felt was, since youth is going to dominate, like from the age bracket of 32 to 45, I would say, is going to dominate this market. And globally, अगर आप Ireland का भी data देखेंगे, their imports, I'll come to the table later on. So a lot of imports from Switzerland, like most of the watch brands are based out of Switzerland. So a lot of import is happening from Switzerland to like other parts of the world. But one key trend that we are seeing is rise in imports from emerging markets, obviously that we discussed as well as part of the larger luxury theme. But since youth is going to dominate with demographic dividend tipped in favor of India, we see that a lot of growth of the global luxury market coming from markets like India. Ireland was one, Australia. China is declining because like in the last year or so, their economy is also like not doing that well, but it's still like the imports are there, but like not as fast as it was a few years back. So when we talk about the global luxury market, yeah, we talked about China, right? Like earlier also we saw how 2006, 2007 was the time when the Chinese economy picked up massively. The same can be seen from the imports of watch as well. Yeah? You see how the correlation between rising disposable or the rise of HNIs in a country to watches. So this is like a perfect mirror to that. So जैसे आप देख सकते हैं कि 2005 में where per capita income China की 1760 थी, 2006-2007 it was like about 2300 where India is today. तो वहां से लेकर उनके watch imports have become 10 times by 2022, right? So 15 साल में इनके watch imports 10 times हुए हैं, and that is like mostly driven by what do you say, economic development, and also with economic development, with rising disposable incomes come surge in spending on luxury goods. So emerging markets like China and particularly India are going to drive the global luxury watch market. So we saw the growth in China, right? Luxury watch market ka. So will India follow the same suit? So the numbers kind of like indicate towards that. And in the coming years, it is bound to projected to increase. So GNI per capita in 2020 was $19-20, wherein like we imported about $104 million worth of watches, and they like almost doubled in the next 2 years, wherein like our GDP like per capita income has increased from 1920 to 2380. So with the per capita income GDP increasing, we can see that imports of watches also will increase. Now, this is the table that I talked about earlier on about the country-wise imports. So this is in November 23 data. It is taken from a leading Swiss watch website, Federation of Swiss Watch, it is called. So we see that India is placed at the 23rd rank as of now. And the year-on-year growth has been like 17.4% in the import of Swiss watches. And if you look at China, like you see a degrowth. But still it is like a like the value of watches that it is still importing is like still pretty damn high as compared to what India is doing. So it is expected that with rising disposable income, like I'm talking again and again, but that's the crux of it, that India will climb the table when it comes to rise of Swiss watch imports. Now, so we spoke about the mental models, right? Like how the consumer behavior is changing, and that is driving the customer preferences when it comes to the spending on luxury. So sustainability, remember the cost driven spending जो हमने बात किया था स्टार्टिंग में कि आज का यूथ इज लाइक मोर इनटू कॉस्ट ड्रिवन परचेजेस. So that when you combine, so what they are saying is कि sustainability and consumer support for independent businesses with, and combine that with today's digital and social media marketing and the online channels, we are seeing a lot of independent watchmakers coming into the foray. And so independent watchmakers का क्या रहता है, like we have Rado and like everything, like huge brand, right? So उनका capacity relatively भी high रहता है, but like with these independent watchmakers, when like they don't have a huge team, but still they are like very like amazing craftsmen, and they have the idea of like what goes into manufacturing a watch. So यहाँ पे इनका जो production रहता है, that is still very less. So the consumer behavior is driving the rise of independent watchmakers, and independent watchmakers के साथ साथ क्या होता है कि since इनका production ही कम है, supply ही कम है, so that is again driving the pricing. Or combine that with online social media, digital marketing and everything, so they are creating a need, they are creating क्या बोलते हैं, market for their brand, like you know, because like at the end of the day this is art. Watchmaking is also an art, so you portray that, you show that, you combine that with the you know, cause driven purchases of the youth today. So we are seeing a lot of booming of independent watchmakers with the watch market, and the combination of all these factors is like gold. You know, it's like it's amazing how it is going for the luxury watch market right now. So it is very important for any company who is in this particular space to be adept at digital marketing. That we'll cover later on as well. See, watch currently is analog. It is like very like centuries old mechanism that goes into manufacturing a watch. But in order to thrive and survive, they do need the online channels to work for them, to penetrate the market, to like grow. And this is the shift which the technology plus vintage, which is driving the global luxury watch market right now. Now let's zoom in. Let's come to India. India में क्या सीन है luxury watch market का? So if you look at the overall watch market, जहाँ पे like affordable, fashion, luxury, like each category of watch अगर हम लोग देखें, so that market is like to grow by about 10.6% in the next 5 years. Now, this is the price-wise categorization I was speaking about, like how they have like categorized what are high luxury, what is luxury, what is bridge to luxury, and what is premium. So the one marked in red is where Ethos focus is on right now. They do operate in premium and fashion, but like as I said, they're actually coming out of this price point altogether. We'll discuss later on, but like they just want to concentrate on the top 3 or top, like still some premium sort of thing, but it's the high end that they're looking at. Now, the interesting aspect of it is, look at the growth here, right? In the next 5 years, the top 3 or the high end market of the luxury watch or the watch segment is growing faster than the watch, like Indian watch industry. It is growing at 15%, and the Indian watch industry overall was growing at 10.6%. So the real fruit when it comes to the watch market right now is at the top end, and that is where Ethos is operating, right? So high luxury is anything about 10 lakh. Luxury watches is 2.5 to 10 lakh. Bridge to luxury is 1 to 2.5 lakh, and premium is 25K to 1 lakh. Now, let us look at how the luxury watch market is like placed here in India. So what we see is 74% is like smartwatches and 26% is analog. But as they say, that smartwatch is packed with technology, but not with no soul, right? So abhi, if I look at a consumer behavior of the HNIs and everyone, so they want to look different, right? वो उनको चाहिए कि they stand out. But as the thing is, smartwatch सबके पास है. Everyone is having a smartwatch. So जो पहले एक डर था यार स्मार्ट वॉचेस विल लाइक किल, like they're also like priced as a premium or a luxury item. So एक बार the smart watches आ जाएगा, so ये market खा जाएगा of the vintage analog watch, but it has proved otherwise. अभी आज का youth is looking at कि बॉस आज हर किसी के पास है ये स्मार्ट वॉच, क्या बोलते हैं, the watch, the luxury watches has some value when it comes to it, like it's like a collectible for some, and which cannot be matched with any smartwatch. Smartwatch आपको like आपको सारे features के साथ आपको सब कर देगा, but like you know the power that comes with wearing a luxury watch, it won't give you that. So this is a very interesting aspect. We'll come to it, like how you know the traditional luxury analog watches are still the king when it comes to the higher price and watches that we talk about. And again, the share of organized and unorganized channels, 68% is organized, 32% is unorganized, or organized maybe 93% of the, it is like 93% of the organized is coming from premium and luxury watch market. So जैसे जैसे आपका प्राइस पॉइंट इंक्रीज होता जाता है, यू नो एक ट्रस्ट फैक्टर आता है, एक एक्सपीरियंस का फैक्टर आता है. सो यहाँ पे ऑर्गेनाइज प्लेयर होना इज एन एडवांटेज as compared to unorganized, and there is a shift happening. Like many unorganized players are getting formalized into getting into the organized space. So this is a shift as well that is coming up in this market. And in order to understand, like India में आप वॉच भी नहीं, बट कोई भी लग्जरी या कोई भी आइटम का रिटेल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन समझना चाहते हैं, सो वी नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि उसकी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन चैनल्स क्या हैं. So it is divided into mainly into three parts. एक आपका मल्टी ब्रांड आउटलेट जो रहता है वो, एक एक्सक्लूसिव ब्रांड आउटलेट होता है, और एक ऑनलाइन डिजिटल. सो लेट्स थोड़ा डीप में समझते हैं कि मल्टी ब्रांड आउटलेट या एमबीओस क्या रहता है. सो आपने शॉपर स्टॉप तो देखा ही होगा, राइट? शॉपर स्टॉप में कैसा, लाइक इट इज अ ब्रांड ऑन इट्स ओन, बट वहाँ पे भी देयर आर लॉट ऑफ अदर कंपनीज के ब्रांड्स दैट आर शोकेस. सो मल्टीपल ब्रांड्स आर बीइंग पुट इनटू अ स्टोर. शॉपर स्टॉप है, लाइफस्टाइल स्टोर्स है, सो काफी सारी ब्रांड्स अंडर वन रूफ इज मल्टी ब्रांड आउटलेट. पर यहाँ पे भी आप शॉपर स्टॉप में आप देखेंगे आपको सब कुछ मिलेगा, आपको वॉचेस भी मिलेंगे, कपड़े भी मिलेंगे, जूते भी मिलेंगे. तो वर्टिकल स्पेशलिस्ट मल्टी ब्रांड आउटलेट्स क्या रहते हैं कि जो कोई एक पर्टिकुलर सेगमेंट को ही कैटर करेंगे. सो इन दिस केस वी लुक, इफ यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट वॉच, सो वर्टिकल स्पेशलिस्ट मल्टी ब्रांड आउटलेट्स में देयर विल बी लॉट ऑफ डिफरेंट वॉच ब्रांड्स जो एक ही रूफ के अंदर रहेंगे विथ मल्टीपल प्राइस पॉइंट्स. एंड इसके एग्जांपल अगर हम लोग वॉच का देखें तो ईथॉस है, टाइटन है, टाइम फैक्ट्री है, कपूर वॉच कंपनी. So these are like multiple brands under one roof. Vertical specialist is one particular segment, one roof, many brands, right? So this is how we look at the MBO channel. अगर हम लोग exclusive brand outlets पे जाते हैं, तो as the name suggests कि किसी एक ब्रांड का exclusive शोरूम रहेगा. तो उसके ब्रांड, वो ब्रांड और उसके सब ब्रांड्स will be showcased under one roof. But यहाँ पे क्या है कि लाइक फॉर द ग्लोबल ब्रांड्स टू कम इन, सो लग्जरी में वी डोंट, इंडिया डज नॉट हैव अ क्या बोलते हैं सिमिलर ब्रांड एज कंपेयर टू LVMH और राडो और पाटेक फिलिप्स. सो वी डोंट इनहेरेंटली डोंट हैव इट वन. सो जो भी हाई एंड लग्जरी आइटम है वो हमको लाइक बाहर से ही लाइक दे कम इन. सो इफ से राडो वांट्स टू कम इन, सो in order to for them to open a exclusive brand outlet in India, so there are FDI restrictions. So उनके पास दो ऑप्शन रहता है कि यू कम विद अ JV विद अनदर इंडियन पार्टनर, या फिर अगर आप 100% आपको करना है, सो 30% लेकिन आपका जो भी कंपोनेंट जाएगा दैट हैज टू बी सोर्स फ्रॉम इंडिया. तो अ लॉट ऑफ फॉरेन लग्जरी ब्रांड्स डोंट वांट टू गेट इनटू द 100% थिंग, सो दे, और ये कम भी है. सो exclusive brand outlets are less as compared to MBO just because of this particular restriction that comes in. So the only option they have here is to jointly open it with a Indian partner here in India. And of course, आप malls में भी देखेंगे kiosk is also like part of a exclusive brand outlet ही देख सकते हैं आप कि आप malls में जाएंगे तो you will find some single brand product का single brand के products they'll be selling. So fast track देख लीजिए या Casho देख लीजिए, they'll have a small kiosk somewhere जहाँ पे space भी ज़्यादा नहीं रहेगा. So this is what the exclusive brand outlet is. And then the third is the new entrant, which is like an online marketplace. So we are aware about Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra. Now there is also like, if we want to look at just luxury, there is, I think, Ajio Lux or luxury, I don't remember exactly. Tata Click का भी एक luxury specific online channel है. So this is like from online, you can purchase the products. So it's pretty straightforward. And any brand retailer, if it operates in all the three segments, three channels, तो वो उसको बोलते हैं हम लोग omni channel, like it is present across the distribution channels that are prevalent in India. तो इंडिया का अगर हम लोग लग्जरी मार्केट देखेंगे, so it is dominated by omni channel market, and वहाँ पे भी you see कि ये 2028 तक it is going to almost double the omni channel watch market. And talking about the premium and luxury watch market, it is going to grow by about 13% in the next 8 years, from FY20 to FY28. It's just the premium and luxury watch market. Now price wise अगर हम लोग brands देखें, so high luxury greater than 10 lakh में आपको Rolex, Chirag, pronunciation थोड़ा वो है, Patek Philippe, Bovet, ये आपको मिल जाएगा वहाँ पे. Luxury is like Omega, Zenith. Bridge to luxury is Longines, Rado, Tag Heuer. So जो अगर हम लोग competition landscape को भी ध्यान में रखना है, so we need to be conscious of the distribution of the watches as per the price segment. तो यहाँ पे आप ब्रांड्स देखेंगे तो मेजोरिटी अगर आपको इंडिया में देखना है तो आपको रैडो, टैग हeuer के वॉच, टीसॉट के वॉच आपको मिल जाएंगे ज़्यादा, लाइक मच मोर कॉमन. अगर आप टाइटन में जाएं, इवन लाइक टाइमेक्स इज आल्सो लाइक कमिंग अप विद सम पार्टनरशिप विद some of these companies to sell the products. So वो आपको मेनली आपको ब्रिज टू लग्जरी में मिलेंगे. बट मेजोरिटी जो आपके brands है, like the Swiss brands, those are like high luxury to luxury, and this is only like ये आपको Kapoor watches and Ethos ऐसे players में ही आपको, और and there are some unorganized sectors. So ये जो brands हैं ये specifically I think only few players are able to bring in. So that I'll come to it कि क्यों ऐसा है. Yeah, it's the same thing कि प्राइस वाइज कैसे डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन चैनल और प्राइस सेगमेंट में कौन से वॉचेस अवेलेबल है. यू लुक एट टाइमेक्स एंड टाइटन, सो उनका 1,00,000 से लेकर 4 लाख का है. टाइमेक्स इज 25,000 to 23,000 का प्राइस रेंज उनके पास. सो क्लियरली टाइटन वो ब्रिज टू लग्जरी के बीच में आ सकता है, बट बियॉन्ड दैट इट इज नॉट देयर लग्जरी टू हायर लग्जरी. सेम विद Timex. Timex is most likely into fashion watches. So multi-brand, अगर like channel wise अगर हमको breakup देखना है luxury watch market का, so multi-brand outlets capture a 61% share when it comes to premium and luxury market. अगर luxury, high luxury and bridge to luxury देखना है, so multi-brand outlet is 77% and exclusive is 20%. So exclusive EBOs में, as I said, because of the FDI restrictions, this share is bound to be a little less until unless something like happens with the FDI policy. Now, see, we have a preconception कि जो भी luxury का spending आएगा, that will come from tier 1, right? Metro cities or tier 1 max. But if you look at the recent con call given by Ethos and like many other companies as well, अगर आप उनके premiumization related बात देखेंगे, so tier 2 and tier 3 are also catching up. So, but still अगर आप distribution देखेंगे in terms of how brands are placed in the geography of India, we see कि majority आपको metro, mini metro या tier 1 में दिखेंगे. not so much in tier 2. But if you look at company wise, so Ethos is probably the only one who is having a luxury wala mein agar main baat karu. So 20% and 6%, and they're trying to expand rapidly in tier 2 and tier 3 in the coming months and time to come. So number wise, if you look at it, Ethos is probably leader among the MBO channel mein dekhenge to, with 61 stores, followed by Zimson. And it's as I mentioned कि अगर सिर्फ luxury, high-end luxury में देखना है, so tier 2 में presence, I think it's only Ethos and Zimson which are having that. Now this is the value chain that like I was talking about. So see, watchmaking is a very geographically concentrated phenomenon. ये सिर्फ आपको at the moment you will only find it in Switzerland. जो भी vintage watch या like high-end luxury watch का आप headquarter देखेंगे, all of them are placed in Switzerland. तो क्योंकि जो component manufacturing and the technique बोले या फिर the capacity or the capability, all of that is like concentrated in Switzerland only. So they are the ones who manufacture the watches, and अभी वो डायरेक्ट भी कर सकते हैं through exclusive brand outlets, but अगर इंडिया की बात करें, so that is being found difficult for these brands. So what they do is that they partner up with a distributor or a reseller based in India, and that is where this is the value chain in which Ethos operates in, and through MBO, vertical MBO and EBOs is through which Ethos further sells the watches. Now, since it is in the retail space, the margins are then range bound. आप एक उसके ऊपर आप नहीं जा सकते हैं. But as in your आपका price segment बढ़ता जाता है, your margin also tend to increase. So अगर premium watches का देखेंगे, तो gross margin would be around 20 to 25. Prestige luxury is 25 to 28, and luxury and above, let's say in high luxury, the margin is 20 to 35%. So there is a method to the madness that Ethos is currently following, jahan pe like they're coming out of lower end watches. And जो हमने बात किया था कि have the gross margins peak, I think with 31% gross margin right now, I think they are pretty much peaked. So they can go to 30 to 33% as per the management. But given the space that it operates in, this is the so यहाँ पे आपको expansion नहीं आएगा, क्योंकि आपको now the margin expansion will come. जो भी आएगा, that will be from the operating margin moving forward. So आगे बढ़ने से पहले, I think it is very important to understand, like we understood कि पहले क्या बोलते हैं retail distribution channels कितने type की होती है, and like what is MBO, EBO and the online channel. But when it comes to watches, and this is like true for any luxury item, अगर आप देखें, so how it functions is कि जैसे कि बताया कि watches specifically are predominantly concentrated in Switzerland. Select few brands do it, and like most of the independent watchmakers are also present in Switzerland. So they have a complete control over where the product goes. अगर आज मेरे को लाना है, so it's not कि I make some agreement and like then I have the full liberty कि मेरे को कहाँ कैसे रखना है. The call is entirely with the brand here. So the distribution is very much controlled. And they have so brand owners जो होते हैं, so even like how the watches are placed or how the product is placed, how the placement will ensure that the scarcity of that particular product ensures आपका supply भी कितना रहता है, all of that is very much controlled by the brand, say Rado या Patek Philippe. So it is very much all the distribution, all the supply and how it is to be positioned is very much controlled by the brands. And that is why it is very important, because like they also like want to ensure कि उनका जो product है, it experiences some sort of a supply demand imbalance. वो inherently वो रहते हैं, so they want capacity भी नहीं रहती, and then they also produce very limited in order to create the scarcity, because that is how the luxury market entirely operates. So, and that is why it is very important to have strong relationships for a retailer with the client, with the brands. तो वो बहुत crucial हो जाता है in order to them to get the supply and make it continue. ताकि अगर आप खुद का ही like you have some autonomy there, you do something, so these brands will very much pull out of the agreement. So that is like very important. So here, the having strong relationship with the brands is a very strong entry barrier. यहाँ पे like not anybody can like come in and just like have a agreement with the brands in place. So there is a very huge and very tight ecosystem in which the watchmaking industry operates. So they have their own what do you say, organization through which a lot of it is regulated, a lot of it is given into the retailers की some SOPs. ये criteria satisfy होना चाहिए in order for a retailer to get the brand. So it is very close-knit ecosystem, and in order to get into that ecosystem is like not everybody's cup of tea when it comes to like a emerging market like India. So यहाँ पे इस sense में Ethos has a very strong advantage. And the numbers speak for themselves. हम लोग देखेंगे कि Ethos among the organized and unorganized, among like listed and unlisted space में Ethos is probably the market leader when it comes to luxury market, with 21% share in the entire luxury market, and premium luxury में देखेंगे 13%. So followed by Kapoor Watch, which is like a family-owned business, but it is only concentrated in North Delhi and Gurgaon. Apart from that, they don't have much presence, but obviously like the concentration of HNIs is probably there, so they're managing to get such high revenues, but it does not have a pan-India presence. Ethos has a pan-India presence. Right. So having understood how the luxury watch market is placed and the role or the position of Ethos in the value chain in the market, let's now deep dive into the company. So what it does, how the financials or how the guidance from the management looks like. And we'll also try to address some of the questions that we asked earlier on in the presentation. So as mentioned earlier, the first retail outlet was opened in 2003 by its parent company, KDDL. This business was hived off in 2008. I think it was still called Kamla Retail, Kamla Watch Retail or something like that. And then it was, the hived off entity was renamed as Ethos in 2012. Right, so this is how the inception of the company came into the fore. And if you talk about like Ethos as a company right now, it is the only Indian player to offer loyalty program plus social media presence over, and this has led to this particular the emphasis and focus on loyalty program and social media presence. It has led them to have about 46% of repeat business coming from the customers. The 46% of the business is coming from the repeat customers, because like there are very strong emphasis on the loyalty program and the digital or the tech team that they have. Right. So, and again, like I've already covered this before, that they have probably the leading retailer here in India with majority of the retail stores, with over very high like SKUs when it comes to premium and luxury watches. So यहाँ पे भी for Ethos also, how they position themselves is very different. So they have something called the Ethos Summit stores. They have the Ethos boutique stores, and then they have the second-hand movement. So the Ethos Summit stores is a store जहाँ पे they are in a mall. Then the square feet size, the area is very big as compared to any Ethos boutique store. So the Ethos Summit stores is like the size is about like 1,500 to 2,000 square feet in a mall or on the high-end street, whereas in the Ethos boutique, it is like less than 1,000 square feet. So they have like 15 Ethos Summit stores. They have one store at an airport with 20 multi-brand outlets and 13 Ethos boutiques, which house both rich to luxury and premium brands. So even like in boutiques, since the size is less, what they do here is like they also the low end, like the premium brands are positioned here in the Ethos boutique store of theirs. The luxury and high luxury is in Ethos Summit. So there are two differences. One is the size and the like price range of the products that they sell. So we also have I think it is not covered here, but they have a partnership with more than 60 brands across the globe. I think that is the biggest partnership of brands that any retailer has in India, 60 plus brand partnerships. And they have one second-hand luxury watch, which is known as the Second Movement. So the store is named as Second Movement. And recently they have opened one luxury hard suitcase product with a partnership with Remova, which is like a LVMH brand. Which is the first time that has come in. I think it opened last month only. I think last month or October in Geo Plaza, Mumbai. So this is how the pan-India presence of Ethos looks like. It has like East-West. East it is a little less, but they are planning to expand rapidly across India, but more in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So this is something that I mentioned about their focus on social media, digital marketing, use of tech. So they have a team of 80 dedicated employees who work on marketing, creative content, social media, internet sales, and others. Plus, they also have an app which is on the way. So what they have done is like they have taken. So see, we have to remember it is a watch retailing company, that too an analog vintage company, but still the focus on tech and social media has given them an upper hand as compared to the competitors. So like this, I'll come. I think in the next slide only it is there. See how it is like they have an excellent understanding of the market. So see, I touched upon right key analog watch business and digital marketing. So it is a very deadly combination in today's time when it comes to the consumer behavior. And this, the team at Ethos understands very well. So they have a very exclusive partnership with Ajio Lux as well, wherein it is one of the channel like Amazon, like alternative to Amazon or Flipkart, but exclusively tied up with Ajio Lux to sell their luxury products. And on top of that, their app is also on the way. So this will also like help their omni-channel business to function in the time to come. And this can be seen in their social media presence. So this is like globally, the list is of like global players, global retailers, and Ethos ranks number 2 when it comes to the Instagram followers, Facebook likes, Twitter followers also like a little less, but I mean, you get the gist, right? Like they have a very robust digital presence when it comes to an Indian retailer. And this are the strengths which I've like covered throughout my presentation, wherein like we can see that they have a leadership position in the luxury market. They have strong brand relationships with 60 plus premium and luxury brands and exclusive brands of exclusive brand partnership with 46 plus brands. They are they have a pan-India presence and strategically located. So they were very high emphasis, and this also like comes from the brand owners as well, like where to place it, and that is the case with any franchisee model as well. So they're very strategically located. As I mentioned, they have a very deep understanding of digital and omni-channel ecosystem, and because of all this, they also have a very large access to access to luxury customers' database. Since they use a lot of digital marketing and tech, that's the case here as well when it comes to sense. So this is how like each of the store look like. The image on the left, you can see like they have a multi-brand outlet in a high-end street, followed by Ethos Summit store in a mall. You can see the size, and like it is like made to provide customers experience, like a rich luxury experience. The one on the right, the Jacob and Co is like a exclusive brand outlet partnership that they have with this brand. And this is the boutique. It's like relatively smaller size as compared to the Ethos Summit. So we spoke about the leadership position of Ethos, right? So they're very what do you say, comparative advantage when it comes to their peers. What they have done is like since they have been in the market since 2003, of course like with a different name. तो उन्होंने पहले से ही जो भी malls नए क्योंकि like हमारा mall का inception भी like big malls like came in that period only. So they had the first mover advantage जहाँ पे उन्होंने अपने stores like they book the stores. और malls का भी क्या होता है कि they have certain criteria कि भाई इतना space ही watch वाले products के brand को देना है. So they have the first mover advantage there. तो इस केस में like अभी जो भी malls आ रहे हैं, even like with the new malls, they are having tying up with malls and every all the players involved in that to get them a space. So all the big malls, अगर आप देखेंगे, even like in Ahmedabad, we had this recent mall that opened called Palladium Mall. So they have a huge Ethos Summit store there. Apart from also an exclusive Rado store, which is like in partnership with Ethos. So you know, luxury malls have some constraints when it comes to like giving out spaces, and Ethos is like being the first mover, taking the advantage of the first mover and taking up the space. So बाकी सारे competition को आना मुश्किल हो गया है in the malls. Looking at the sales mix, what we are seeing like from the last 3 years is from the stores also like COVID के बाद का भी हो गया है कि जहाँ पे like store से sales are like coming in thick and fast. So earlier it was 62% in FY21, so it has jumped to about 70% in FY23, and online का share उसी तरह से decrease हो रहा है. So more and more people are like wanting to take that experience of purchasing from a luxury store and going to the stores and purchasing apart from online, but also like with being omni channel. What is the pattern is कि लोग पहले online देखते हैं, they do the price discovery, they do the watch discovery to like what they like, and वो select करके they do a lot of research because like you know जो enthusiastic होते हैं with watches, they go to the forums, they check कि ये कैसा है, like what is the unique feature about this, what is unique about this particular watch, and then they go to the store and they purchase. And it's the other way as well कि like कभी-कभी होता है कि like they've just traveled to a place somewhere, they like a watch and they would say कि ठीक है, I need more time, but I'll order it online. So a lot of being omni-channel gives you this flexibility, and that Ethos is like taking advantage of very well. Now, in terms of the price points that Ethos sells, what we are seeing is like the growth of luxury and high luxury is like stupendous when compared to the fashion or like comparatively lower end products. So high luxury has jumped from 19% in FY21 to about 40%, like 2 times jump in the growth in sales that we are seeing in high luxury. And that also like we are seeing the value migration here. So luxury say like the share is coming to high luxury, right? So this is like amazing to look at how the sales mix can tell you a story key, and that also like justifies Ethos moving out of low price point watches. So any retail player, so whenever you go to a store, we look for variety, to give us more choices. And if you look at the data here, we see that Ethos is probably the only brand which is like providing this many SKUs, right? When you compare it with other players, I think in each of the category, they are providing much more variety. And please note that this number excludes the SKUs of Rolex. So because I think as you can see from the source, the above data excludes Rolex SKUs for all retailers due to price and availability. So यहाँ पे भी add होगा. So this I took it from, if you look at the right, on the right hand side, I've taken this from the investor presentation. With 60 plus retail stores, 60 brands, and over 6,500 varied premium and luxury watches, and about 30,000 watches in stock at any given time. Plus, the stores are located strategically. So this gives a very huge advantage to Ethos as compared to other players in the same category. And as I said, this price point pair with the price point with the pan-India presence, Ethos is the only player. Now, this Favre Lupa is a like 300-year-old Swiss watch brand. This is a very interesting story, and it also like answers one of the questions that raised during the when we were glancing through the balance sheet of Ethos, wherein we saw intangible asset coming into the picture. So this is that. Now, interestingly, as I said, that Favre Lupa is a 300-year-old Swiss watch brand, which was like the second biggest brand at one point, but due to some mismanagement and everything over the years, the brand kind of like died out. It was acquired by Titan earlier at a very cheap price, and then recently, so when Titan bought the brand, they gave the rights of this brand to Ethos to sell in their retail outlets. And now recently, the news has come that Ethos has brought this brand, heritage Swiss brand from Titan. And the management is very excited about this, that, apart from being a retailer, they're now also owner of one of the watch brands, and that to a very, a vintage and heritage brand. So they are very excited to turn the business around. They've acquired this as part of a Swiss subsidiary of theirs, and they're working very closely with watch designers, craftsmen in Switzerland to bring this brand to India and completely revive it. So this is something that is very interesting space to look at in the coming quarters about how this performs. So yeah, this is like one question that it answers about the intangible assets on the balance sheet. Now coming to the corporate structure. So as you know that KDDL is a holding company, the promoting company of Ethos, and it is under the Silver City brands that Ethos has acquired the Favre Lupa watch brand, right? And the one marked in red are all based out of Switzerland. So the company has a huge skin in the game when it comes to watch, and I don't see any player so much intertwined or intermingling with the entire watch ecosystem when it comes to like Ethos. So it is probably the only brand which is like involved in what is happening in the watch ecosystem. So this can also be seen through this particular information, wherein we see that Yashovardhan Sabu, who is the chairman and MD of Ethos, he is a member of GPHG Academy based out of Geneva in Switzerland. So this is like the council, as you can say, of the world watch factory or the world watch market, where like everything happens. I spoke about, right? Like the SOPs and everything that they have. It's a very huge ecosystem, very tight-knit ecosystem that the Yashovardhan Sabu is a part of. And I think these are the ones who I think last year organized the summit of this particular organization recently, like last year. So the what do you say? Involvement of the promoter, the passion, the knowledge, and everything can be seen through this fact. And he also like has a very good business acumen that can be seen from like him being a IMA graduate and like how he's brought and grown the business over the years. So succession planning is also in place here with his son, with the second generation taking over. Like he's the CEO right now, and so he's the one who is driving the digital thing. So it's not that he was directly given the command of Ethos. So he has worked in the digital marketing space. He has his like own firm as well, which is like helping Ethos to grow digitally. So let's now talk about the second-hand watch market, which is like known as certified pre-owned luxury market. As mentioned, it is like dominated by Ethos currently. In India, there is no organized player right now when it comes to this market. And the potential of this particular market is seen to be 600 to 700 crore by FY28. And the current size is only 8 to 100 crore. And it constitutes only about 0.4% of the total premium and luxury watch market, right? So the runway is huge. It is like bound to grow to about 7 to 8 times in the coming years. So, and Ethos has a very like huge advantage when it comes to its competitors here. We mentioned about the collectors and investors in the starting of the presentation, right? So, I mean, 75% of them have bought a second. So this is very interesting information. 75% of them have bought a second-hand piece in the past 24 months. So the frequency of buying from this particular class of watch buyers is very much high, and that is what will drive the market. Just as say like the ecosystem and the market develops in India. So it is this Indian luxury watch market is at a very nascent stage right now, and as and when it matures, we'll see a lot of it also playing out in India. Looking at the growth, so from in the next 5 years, what we are seeing is that the organized CPO market will grow at about 56%. There is a huge runway in front of them. And this is also a very interesting part to look at, that see, watch has a store of value. ऐसा नहीं है कि at the cost of repeating myself, it's not कि इसका price आप buy करके, like especially the luxury in the high-end watches, price a drop होता है when you purchase, and that can be seen in the data. Just post-COVID, the prices of the second-hand watches increased like to about like 150 to 300%, 200 times of the 200% of the retail, like fresh watches. So the growth in the second-hand market is like tremendous. Itna return, so I can like show you the chart here in the next as well. Like, and this is also like bound by like how much the online thing is also playing out. How much it is like famous on TikTok and Instagram. So watches like which is like following the jewelry here. A lot of it is like the demand and a lot of interest is coming from online as well. So a lot of that can be seen from the interactions and the conversation that happening on TikTok and Instagram. Yeah, so this is what I was talking about. Watches like have outperformed S&P 500 in US in the last 5 years. It is like if you look at the top 3 brands and in the luxury watch space, they have given 20% CAGR returns as compared to 8% stock market returns in US. So that is like pretty phenomenal, like giving and that is like what is also attracting the watch owner, especially the young ones. So this is driving this will in fact drive the certified pre-owned market in India going forward as well, wherein like an ecosystem develops wherein certified with proof, with bill, second-hand watches are being traded in the market. And one interesting trend can be seen here. So this is like taken from the QIP document that Ethos recently released, which is showing that a lot of fundraising has been happening in this CPO space, certified pre-owned market space. Not only in watches, but also in like cars and other accessories. But clearly we see that there is a market for this, and it has a potential to grow as well. So now let's come down to the management discussions and guidance, which can also like answer some of the questions that we had while looking at the balance sheet. So this is on the sales growth and the margin. So when it comes to the sales growth, management has been guiding for 25% plus during the year, but in the last 6 months they have been like delivering more than 30%. And against the margin, yes, the gross margins probably might have peaked, but also like they have to look at how, because things most of it is being imported. The currency fluctuation, the Swiss francs also play a huge role in the gross margin. So that has to be a monitorable going forward as well. But yeah, any margin expansion will come from the operating leverage. It will come from the operating margin, and they see that the margin improvement will happen in the future, as and when they are like adding more and more stores and then getting mature. Yeah, this is again the same price point that the luxury and the like top end segment of the luxury market have a margin of say between 20 to 35%, and that is where Ethos is operating at. Now, one more thing that we noticed was the high inventory days and the working capital intensive nature of the company. So, and that is like somewhat like puts off certain investors, like seeing like such high inventory. But and this has been like very much amazingly responded by the management here. When like on asked about high inventory days, so what they're saying is they're front loading their brands, and with new brands and new stores, there's a lot of new inventory that will like coming up. So inventory days are bound to remain high, and management is confident that as and when like time passes, this number will come down with maturity of the stores. And so see, they're in a very aggressive growth phase. What they're saying is that if we want to bring the number down, we'll just like stop partnering with more brands. But they're rapidly expanding in not only in terms of stores but also in terms of brands. So this inventory thing is going to remain high in the time to come. And but the good thing is that that more than 80% of their inventory is less than 1 year old. So watchmaking is a or the watch retailing is a business wherein it's not कि आपका जो माल है the watch खराब हो जाएगा एक साल में. So even like if like some of the leftover inventory is there, वो 2 साल 3 साल 4 साल 5 साल में like it gets sold. So it's not like any other business wherein like we have to account for that. So this is something that is the nature of the business, wherein like being high inventory days, especially at this stage where it is like growing, they will be like on the higher side. But if you look at their estimate, wherein like they have projected their inventories, they do plan to bring it down to 141 by 2026, and they say that this is the nominal range that they're comfortable operating with. Yeah, this is the second question. There's one more question that like had arise that why did they opt for a QIP soon after like an IPO, wherein like they just wanted to use the proceedings of the IPO to expand the stores. So what the management is like saying is that during the time of IPO, the idea was to increase the stores to 75. And then again, in the like first 6 months, the target was increased from 75 to 90. But given the undercurrent in the market, the management felt that there is a huge demand, which will like come from especially the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. And that is the reason why they want to increase the number of like projected stores from like the earlier 75 to 150. So they bring down the number of, they want to bring up the number of stores from like 75 to 150, and that is why they are going for fundraising. And again, I have highlighted this, but you can just also read that they are seeing a lot of demand from tier 2, tier 3 cities, and that is what their strategy looks like, where they want to expand rapidly in these particular regions. Another interesting aspect of Ethos is, and that probably supports why they are like taking out, like moving out from the low price point products, is that average selling price is increasing like year on year, like from 84,000 to 1,87,000 in the first half of H124. So obviously, in this, the volume has like remained flat. Like most of the sales earlier was like coming from the low end segment, relatively low end segment. But management is confident that moving forward, the volume from this high price point segment will also pick up. So this is another key monitorable that we need to like look at. And the other question that continuously comes up from the investors and analysts alike is like them not being a cash flow positive. So that also like management has also responded very like vehemently that they see a lot of opportunities coming in, and they see this as a once in a lifetime thing, wherein like a lot of foreign brands are taking interest in India and they want to fully capitalize on this. So a lot of reinvestment is happening, aggressive like fundraising and everything is happening in order to support this like future growth. So that is where their aggressiveness is resulting in like the negative cash flow that are happening currently. But management is confident that in the next few years, this will bear fruits, and in order to support the 33% growth, this aggressiveness is warranted. Now, another key thing that has to be looked at is the adjacencies which are like playing out. Now, remember we talked about how luxury brands operate and like how building strong relationships, having a strong understanding of the particular value chain, like brands have a very controlling interest in distribution. It is important to have strong relationships and strong understanding of the luxury market. And that is the advantage that Ethos has, like having such high entry barriers already, having understanding of the market. They feel that they are confident in playing out adjacencies as well. So, as I mentioned earlier, like Remova is a luxury suitcase brand, which is like a part of the Louis Vuitton brand, and they've partnered up with them by opening a store recently. And the growth in this particular segment like will be we'll get to know in the next couple of quarters how it performs. So they also like have a similar partnership with Messica, which is a jewelry brand, and they do also plan to get into this. But the focus of management right now is like growing the Remova brand as far as the adjacencies is concerned. But this is another key lever that can like propel the growth in Ethos. Now, mental models I've already discussed in terms of the consumer behavior in the Weblen goods. This is again the counter positioning that I spoke about very elaborately in the first slide itself. So this is something that we see playing out here. Now, key growth triggers. Yeah, so superior digital marketing capability that the company has, like the expansion in tier 2, tier 3 cities, first mover advantage in CPO business, like the fact that they are now owning a brand as well is another added lever, the adjacencies that are coming in, and the focus on increasing the store count and the number of brands will be the key growth drivers moving forward. So even though the luxury watch market is pegged at 12.8%, if all these things, all these factors like play out for Ethos, we see that it should grow much faster as compared to the Indian watch industry. Coming down to the final segment of the presentation, wherein like we'll take a look at the competitive landscape here. So in the segment that Ethos operates in globally, there are 3 competitors that Ethos has. One is Butcherer, other is Watches of Switzerland, and the other is Hourglass. So these are the 3 competitions globally that we can see, wherein it does a similar thing, operating solely on the top end of the luxury watch market. But coming down to the domestic listed competitors, management is in the QIP document. They clearly said that Ethos is the only company which has a pan-India presence. Other organized players are there. They're very concentric in certain localities. But Ethos is the one with the pan-India presence, and because of that, we have like taken a comparison with the 2 listed companies, Titan and Timex. Fully aware that Titan is like not solely into watches, but this is like taking into consideration the luxury aspect of it. We'll make a we'll look at the how it plays out when it comes to numbers between these 3 companies. So the first thing that comes into mind is the valuation, right? See, trading a 63.5 P is like no way cheap, but it gives a sense when we look at it relatively. So Titan and Timex. So Timex is like still in a very affordable to fashionable category, but when it comes to luxury, Titan is trading at a premium, right? As compared to that, Ethos is trading at 63.5 price to earning ratio right now. But interesting thing that comes to the eyes here is PEG ratio, which can be like a good indicator wherein we can see the undervaluedness of Ethos relatively, right? So at 0.88, when you compare it with Titan or Timex, it is still very attractively placed. But yes, 63.5 P is like in no manner super undervalued. Again, price to sales as well, like Ethos is faring better as compared to Titan, like it is trading at a lower multiple here. And comparison to Timex is like also can be made. It's 4.93, 4.23, so not much gap there as well. And operating margins, yes, Ethos is like higher, and however, the net profit margin, the bottom line, can be seen that Ethos is lagging behind both Titan and Timex. But like that, with over time, since management is confident that their operating margin will further improve, we might see some improvement here as well. So coming down to risk, as I mentioned, it is mainly the value chain in which Ethos belongs to. It is mainly import driven. So any changes in like volatility in Swiss francs will have an impact on the gross margin of Ethos, right? So that has to be kept in mind. The other is the aggressive growth, drive that Ethos is on. It has to be seen that since demand and the luxury market here in India is at a nascent state, obviously it can play out, but incorrect demand forecast can have some impact on the operation. Entry of competition. What if like Titan decides to, like, given the brand value, given the pan India presence Titan has, it can pretty much impact Ethos if Titan decides to come into luxury and ultra luxury watch segment. Yes, it is a very highly working capital intensive business, and it will be very interesting to know how like Ethos like manages its operations, cash flow operations, and everything. So that is one risk that we had to look at. Absence of definite supply agreement with luxury brands. So this is the nature of the business. Here that luxury brands will not have a definite supply agreement with you. It's only based on their own judgment, their own forecasting of the demand and everything. The luxury brands will supply you the watches. So that is one of the risks that one has to understand. And availability of trained manpower. So Ethos, as I said, that Ethos has already acquired a brand, like 300-year-old Swiss brand. And also because since it operates in the CPO market and also towards after service, it is very imperative to have trained watchmakers or the technicians when it comes to servicing and manufacturing watches. So this is a very key monitorable that in this business, this is the downfall of huge brands. The quality and the variations in the watches and lack of it leads to the downfall of the brand image. So this is something that Ethos has to like take very much care of. And if I had to have a one-pager thesis on Ethos, it would be something like this: that it is India's most experienced ultra luxury player right now. It has a promoter who is very passionate and has a vision about where he wants to take the company and how he senses the luxury market in India. It is undergoing aggressive expansion, and management says it is a once in a lifetime opportunity. So it is very exciting to see how it goes in the time to come. Yes, as I mentioned, it has high entry barriers, limited competition in at least in the pan India space and the high end luxury space. Management is like sticking to its 20 to 25% growth, but also like they're not not being overly enthusiastic, like, okay, we'll go for a 30-35%. Like they are under projecting and over delivering kind of a thing. So they were reviving a as I said, 300-year-old Swiss brand. Their strong digital data team, the adjacency is being played out, which is like the luggage and the jewelry products. And again, like playing on the long-term premiumization, ultra luxury theme is something which looks like makes Ethos a very attractive proposition. But of course, valuation is something that one has to take a subjective call on. So this is just about Ethos. Thank you very much. If anybody has a question, I'll be happy to take.
So thank you, Shivam. I think it was a great presentation. So I hope everyone who's present there had a good understanding of the sector now. And if anybody has any question, you can raise your hand or ask question on the chat box. I see one hand being raised. So Avdut bhai, you can go ahead and ask your question. Yeah. Yeah. Avdut bhai, can you hear me? Maybe you are muted. We can't hear you. Please check your system's volume. Maybe it was muted. That's why we can't hear you.
Hello.
Yeah. Now we can hear you. Go ahead.
Just a moment. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Much better. Go ahead.
Thank you, Shivam, for the great presentation. I think it. Hello.
Yes, Abdul.
Yeah, you have taken like almost 2 hours, and it's a very elaborate presentation. I really liked it. A few things I want to mention. First, we can look at this business just like a DMart or kind of business, like right. It is growing into the pieces. There is a long runway for growth. So we have to look at that as a store level. Okay. So
Right.
how a number of mature stores are there? How long it takes to mature the store? And how the business has grown in each store. So if you look at store-wise economics, it will be much easier to understand the business and how it grows how it has grown over the period. So mature stores, you will have large visibility. Their sales will be much more. So whenever they put a store, like say Indore or Bhopal, they have put stores recently. So they have to do advertising spends to create the awareness about the store. So these are the few aspects that we should look into. That's how the business will grow. So if you look at store level economics, you will come to know whether they are making profits at each store level. If not on each store level, then how they are making on the matured stores, that we have to look into. I don't think management provides this data. They have never provided it. But we can look it from the P&L statement and number of stores. You can get the data over the period. That would be much more easier to understand the business. I think that's the one point I want to mention. Otherwise, it's, as you mentioned, it's very inventory heavy business. I sometimes used to compare it with the KRBL, which is again the premium level rice and again the inventory heavy business, but the store level, it's totally different. So if you ask me how will I value it, and something that I used to value it like if I get it below inventory level there, then only I buy it. I can, but in this case, you can give more value to the inventory also because it's not a perishable one.
Right.
Okay. And third thing is why market has given value is just because of the growth. If you look at Kalyan also, they also started expanding, and they have gone from the south region to north region where the studded is more and stuff. So market expects that there will be much growth in Kalyan. Similarly, that's happened in the Ethos. But we have to look at how is the company operated store. I think these all are company operated stores, right?
Right.
Hello?
Hello. Yes. All of them are company operated.
So whether they are going to the franchisee, then their their inventory levels will come down accordingly. That we have to look into. We have to ask this question to the management, how they want to play it over the period and how it will happen. So growth is already baked into the numbers as per my understanding. If growth falters going further, then there could be a risk of
Yes.
derating in this business.
Right.
That's what I have to add. That's it from my side.
Thank you, Abdul bhai.
If you look
Thanks.
at
Yeah.
if you look at store economics, and if you can share it on the group, it would be helpful for all. And if you
Definitely.
need any help in that case, I'm ready to help.
Definitely. Yeah, I do plan to work on that. I think we also discussed it.
Yeah. That's
Great.
it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Avdut bhai. And that store economics point is a very good point. And I'll think And I think we'll soon work on that and share it with everyone, and
Yes,
probably update it on our Mission Smile app also. We'll put that as a slide. Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So I think yeah, Jai has asked a very good question. Current PE of Ethos is 66. What PE is comfortable for us to enter? So I think in one of the slides, Shivam rightly mentioned about the growth, and as Avdut Bhai also mentioned that is one of the risks. If growth falters, it can easily get derated. I'll leave to Shivam to give the final opinion, but my view is that as of now, we at SmartSync Services are not invested because of this reason only, and we would probably wait for, if the growth continues like this, and even if we get something at around a business like this at around say 35 to 40 times earnings, we would probably be interested. So that is what I would say, Jai bhai. Yeah, Shivam, you can go ahead.
Yeah, that covers most of it. But yeah, I mean, Abdul Bhai also mentioned that if you compare it to DMart, like even like I spoke about Titan and what do you say, Timex. So if the growth continues, I think that, I mean, this is, I mean, like nobody can tell about the markets, right? But we would be comfortable as much as 45, 50 PE, given the growth continues. But one key risk that can come up is like they're going very aggressive in expansion. So like depends how that also like plays out. They're like, so they are opening stores and they're closing stores. So that is also like something that has to be seen. That is like they're taking a very proactive step as well about like closing the stores if they are not happy with the unit economics there. But if like more and more such thing happens and they have misjudged the demand in a particular locality, then we can see some dampening of the growth happening and it might get derated. But you may never know, like the share price rise from like 1400, 1500 to like it went to about 2100 as well recently, and again it has back like very fast. Like, you know, 1 year like it has grown very fast. But like if growth supports, then a subjective call can be made on this. Yeah, yes, Abdul Bhai. You wanted to add?
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So we have to look at seasonality also in this business. It's like Q3 or Q3 would be much higher, if I
Yeah,
remember correctly.
yes.
So two things are to the marriage season and Diwali and around that, it is very heavy,
Yes,
this
yes.
business. So we have to look at that also. And
Yes.
accordingly, I think that has also baked into the
Baked in.
numbers.
Yes, yes,
So we have to be aware about.
absolutely.
Shivam, there are a few questions on the chat box. I'll just read them out. So Navneet asks, KDDL Limited and Ethos both are listed entities. As a retail investor, which one out of the two one should be looking at investing? So it is directly a recommendation question, but probably you can skip the recommendation part and answer more qualitatively.
Yeah, so KDDL in itself is a very interesting business to look at. Like, obviously, it is a like holding company of Ethos, but like even they have a subsidiary which operates in the precision engineering part, and they also like manufacture the components and everything for the war. So very specialized niche business. And if I am not wrong, the precision engineering, which is like the Eigen Engineering, the subsidiary of KDDL, they have gotten orders from Tesla. So the growth in KDDL itself is very high, and that is why you can see the discount between KDDL and Ethos being very less. So, I mean, both the businesses can be looked at separately. So yeah, it's depends on your call, what theme you want to. If you want to play directly retail luxury thing, Ethos is probably the good one to look at it. But if you want to like take a holistic approach towards watchmaking and everything, along with the precision component part, I think KDDL is also very interesting.
So this is an interesting question. Jay asks, there are presumably 5,000 listed companies. What prompted you to study this segment and company? I think.
No, so as I mentioned earlier, like premiumization in luxury was something that we internally discuss every time at SmartSync about what to which businesses look interesting, and this is certainly that part, right? And even in premiumization, high-end luxury is something which is picking up. So there is a lot of talk about how India is going to be an economical superpower in the years to come, with everything